Zodiac is a 2007 American mystery thriller film directed by David Fincher and written by James Vanderbilt, based on the non-fiction books by Robert Graysmith. Zodiac in 1986 and the Zodiac Unmasked in 2002. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo and Robert Downey Jr. with Anthony Edwards, Brian Cox, Elias Koteas, Donal Logue, John Carroll Lynch, Chloë Sevigny, Philip Baker Hall and Dermot Mulroney in supporting roles. The film tells the story of the manhunt for the Zodiac Killer, a serial killer who terrorized the San Francisco Bay Area during the late 1960s and early 1970s, taunting police with letters, blood-stained clothes, and ciphers mailed to newspapers. The case remains one of the United States' most infamous unsolved crimes. Fincher, Vanderbilt, and producer Bradley J. Fisher spent 18 months conducting their own investigation and research into the Zodiac murders. Fincher employed the digital Thomson-Biber Filmstream camera to photograph most of the film and used traditional high-speed cameras for slow-motion murder sequences. Zodiac was released by Paramount Pictures in the United States, Canada, and by Warner Brothers Pictures in international markets on March 2, 2007. It received largely positive reviews, with praise for its writing, directing, acting, and historical accuracy. The film was nominated for several awards, including for a Saturn Award for Best Action Adventure or Thriller Film. It would go on to gross $84.7 million worldwide on a production budget of $65 million. In 2016 critics poll conducted by the BBC, Zodiac was voted the 12th greatest film of the 21st century. In the years since its release, the film has garnered a large cult following, with many claiming it to be David Fincher's best work. Most of the film's followers praise its direction, acting, writing, cinematography, production design, soundtrack, attention to detail, and accuracy in both the real-life investigation and the obsession that gripped some of those who were either directly involved with or close to the investigation itself. Some interesting trivia notes. The murder victims' costumes were meticulously recreated from forensic evidence that was lent to the production. The production also hired a private investigator to track down the real-life Zodiac survivor, Michael Reno Mago. When Mark Ruffalo met David Toschi, the investigator he plays in the film, he was very impressed to learn that Toschi had perfect recall for every detail of every case. Because he wanted the film to be accurate as possible, David Fincher decided not to depict any of the alleged Zodiac murders, for which there were no surviving victims or witnesses. The shooting script was 200 pages long. To prevent any problems with the length that such a long script might cause, director David Fincher asked the cast to speak faster. The Zodiac case would be reopened after the release of this film. Jake Gyllenhaal plays cartoonist Robert Graysmith, who of course would go on to write a book called The Zodiac. Robert Graysmith commented after watching the film, "God, now I see why my wife divorced me." The Zodiac's first confirmed attack, the murders at Lake Herman Road, was excluded from the film since there were no surviving victims to corroborate the details. The creators thus decided to open the film with the 4th of July murders, considered to be the Zodiac's second double murders. Here would actually be added to close-ups of Jake Gyllenhaal's knuckles as he draws or holds letters. David Fincher felt that Gyllenhaal's hands were too hairless and pretty. In one of the Zodiac's letters, he muses on who would portray him in a film about him. In this film, he is portrayed by 3 separate actors, and in any shot featuring the Zodiac, the actors' faces are always out of focus or obscured. This served to keep the audience guessing, and perhaps as a bulk to the actual Zodiac killer, so that he wouldn't be portrayed by a visible or famous actor. The film starts and ends with the real-life Zodiac survivor, Michael Reno Mago's character. Fincher always had Jake Gyllenhaal in mind for the role of Robert Graysmith. Fincher's second choice would have been Orlando Bloom. One of the film's earliest conversations on the film's casting was with Jennifer Aniston. She talked about actors she had enjoyed working with. They were Jake Gyllenhaal on The Good Girl and Mark Ruffalo with Rumour Has It. Fincher said he liked Gyllenhaal and Donnie Darko and thought he'd be an interesting double-sided coin. Initially, Ruffalo wasn't interested in the project, but Fincher wanted him to play David Toschi. After meeting with Fincher, Ruffalo was convinced. Ruffalo remembered, for research, he read every report on the case and read all the books on the subject. Initially, Gary Oldman was cast to play Melvin Belli, but Graysmith would comment that he just wasn't the right frame, so Brian Cox was cast instead. The Zodiac Killer was a pseudonym of an unidentified serial killer who murdered 5 known victims in the San Francisco Bay Area in December 1968 and October 1969. The case has been described as arguably the most famous unsolved murder case in American history and has become both a fixture of popular culture and a focus for efforts by amateur detectives. He is known to have attacked 3 young couples and a lone male cab driver. 2 of those victims survived. The Zodiac coined his name in a series of taunting messages that he mailed to regional newspapers in which he threatened killing sprees and bombings if they were not printed. He also said that he was collecting victims as slaves for the afterlife. He included 4 cryptograms or ciphers in correspondence. 2 were deciphered in 1969 and 2020, and 2 are generally considered to be unsolved. In 1974, the Zodiac claimed 37 victims in his last confirmed letter. This tally included victims in Southern California, such as Cherry Joe Bates, who was murdered in Riverside in 1966. Despite many theories about the Zodiac's identity, the only suspect authorities have ever named was Arthur Lee Allen, a former elementary school teacher and convicted sex offender who died in 1992. Now, David Fincher's Zodiac is a haunting, meticulously crafted true crime thriller that grips you from start to finish. Based on the real-life investigation into the Zodiac killer, the film is both chilling and intellectually absorbing, delving deep into one of the most infamous unsolved cases in American history. The acting is nothing short of outstanding. Jake Gyllenhaal delivers a compelling performance here as Robert Graysmith, a cartoonist whose obsession with the case becomes all-consuming. Mark Ruffalo brings a quiet intensity and realism to his role as Inspector David Toshi, grounding the film with a dogged sense of duty, while Robert Downey Jr. is electric as journalist Paul Avery, injecting the narrative with charisma and a growing sense of desperation. What makes Zodiac so effective is its dedication to authenticity. It's clear that the film is thoroughly researched, capturing the moods of the 1970s and 60s in San Francisco with uncanny precision. The procedural elements are dense and detailed, offering insight into how an investigation of this magnitude unfolds and how it can go terribly awry. This is more than just a crime film. Zodiac explores obsession, ambiguity, and the psychological toll of chasing a ghost. It's genuinely scary, not because of the jump scares or gore, but because it's true. The fear lies in the unknown, the killer who taunted police and the press with cryptic messages, and the disturbing fact that to this day we still don't know who for certain the Zodiac was. This is a masterclass in suspense, storytelling, and historical reconstruction, and a must-watch for true crime enthusiasts and film lovers alike. Zodiac gets a 9 out of 10.